Hello, everybody. Welcome back to E20 Zone TV. Cheltenham Festival is back, and it is like Christmas for me and Sam. We do love this. That is Sam. He is a sort of racing post expert, the Cockney tipster. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Yourself?
I'm very well, mate. I'm very, very well. I'm looking forward to Cheltenham, I must admit. Obviously, we just spoke off air, and obviously, there's been a few pullouts, but obviously, Cheltenham is sort of the main race of the calendar year, isn't it? Let's be honest,
It's,
the main.
it's the main
Yeah.
week. Yeah, it's this and then Royal Ascot, but I don't think Royal Ascot comes close.
Yeah, I must admit, Cheltenham is the one. Before we'll go into Cheltenham, we'll talk a bit about West Ham, as you are a West Ham fan, like me. What do you make of West Ham so far this season, mate, for you?
It's not been spectacular on the eye, but we're in the top 7 or 8. We're still in Europe. I don't know what more you can really expect. I can't see it breaking into the top 4 or 5. I can't see anyone breaking into that back bracket for a while. I think we've got it as good as we got. Yeah, it's not attractive on the eye, but I'd rather have football not attractive on the eye and achieve what we're achieving than looking great on the eye and going down. It's our generation. We was kids in the 90s, and every year we was fighting for relegation. It was entertaining, but it weren't. I don't think I'd live long if football was like that now. I'd have a heart attack. I'd rather just be a bit more stable and a bit of solidness, and
I agree.
Where we are, weirdly.
I totally agree, mate. I really, really do. Don't get me wrong. The last 4 years have been amazing to a point, like up and down. Like we've had the highs of Prague, the lows of last season. Like I think we was going to go down and everything, but I don't know. Like this season, it's been okay this season. Like there's a lot of divide in the fan base. Like, and I will get to him in a minute, but as a whole, West Ham this season, it's been all right. It's been okay. Like we've had some amazing results.
We had a really bad period. I think it was 6 games where we just couldn't buy a result or a goal.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a bad patch every season. And I'm glad it came when it did. We kind of knew it was going to come with the African nations.
Yeah.
And I think we've got through it now. And I think we just grind our way. I do think we'll beat Freiburg Thursday.
Yeah.
A bit of a crap result last night. But like you said, I mean, with semi-final of the Europa League, winners of the conference last year, win on Thursday, we're in another quarter-final of the Europa League. We've never had it this consistent or this good in all of my life anyway. And go back further, I mean, we was winning FA Cups and that, but the great years. We was in the league below. We weren't even in the top league when we was winning an FA Cup. I just can't understand the logic of what some fans want. I just be happy with what we got, because I'm telling you, the day Moyes goes, we'll be 6 months later going, oh, we're in trouble here. What have we done? I think that.
Yeah. I must admit, it's going to be mad, isn't it?
The day he does go is going to be carnage, because I think there'll be a few players following suit. Fans won't want to hear it, but Kudos a go, Paqueta a go, and I do think Bowen would probably would consider his options. I don't think he will now currently. And the fact that you've got players coming out now on social media having little digs at the fans, it's obviously going through to the players now, the divide in the base and the Moyes out. The players love Moyes. So all you're doing is creating a negativity against a team that you should be getting behind, because we've got a chance of finishing in the top 7 or 6, another chance of a good European Cup run. If we all just got together and just went for it this year, I think we can. But it don't help the fact that players feel they have to come out and tell fans, oh, we love Moyes and whatever. It's been the last 3 interviews with players, Ward-Prowse, Souček, and I can't remember the one before, but all of them have felt they've had to mention how they love Moyes, playing for Moyes, etc. And it's just, I can't see how there's just so much toxic accounts out there and whatever that just, I mean, I'm not going into names of people and that, but there's one account in particular. You just couldn't make it up. We went 3-1 up, and the geezer looked like someone had pissed in his Kellogg's. It was unbelievable. He's a so-called West Ham fan, and it looked like someone had come in his room and slapped him. And it was like, this ain't what it's about. You get behind them on the good days. You celebrate whatever, I understand people are entitled to a moan. We can all moan, but it ain't gonna. You're just creating something bad in the changing room right now that's not needed.
I do agree with you, Sam. Like, I do, to a point, yeah. Like last night, I was pissed off with the way we played last night. I thought we played shit last night. I'm not going to lie. But as a whole, if you put it into context this season, it's not bad. You write it down on paper and say, right, we're currently 7th in the league. Yeah. We're in the last 16 of the Europa League. it don't look as bad. It's just a style of play that people get the ump with, which I'm not being funny. It is not good, but
it's not good. But Chelsea's most successful years with Mourinho, and it wasn't the greatest on the eye. You know, your golden eras. You don't have to be Barcelona, TikTok. Everyone wants his tiki-taka football, and we're not Man City. We've not got 11 players that can do that. We've got 3, and the rest of them you just got to grind it out, and that's how it is. And you know, I played centre back as a kid, so I love defensive football. So for me, I've not minded, especially the European games where you sit in, you wait in, you break, you're getting them on a break. I love that style of football, and it works in Europe, and I think it even works on the eye in Europe. Not so much in the Premier League because it's so fast paced and whatnot. Like Arsenal exposed us that time, it can go wrong. But when it goes right, you can have successive games of it going right, and teams can't break it down.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I really do. What do you make of David Moyes for you, Sam? Do you think he'll sign, or do you think he'll say goodbye at the end of the season?
I want him to sign, but I think because of the toxic around the club at the minute with the Moyes in, Moyes out, which there's no need for, as again, as a third consecutive year in Europe, I think there'll be an opportunity at Celtic for him because Brendan Rodgers is going, and I think the door will be open there. And I think if they offered it to him and he's not tied down, I think he'll go up there. I think he still lives up there, I believe, in Scotland. So it's his boyhood club, and I'm not being funny. He could go there. He's won a European Cup at West Ham. He'd go to Scotland. He could win a treble with Celtic easy next year, League Cup, FA Cup, League. And, you know, his CV looks great then. He's retired with some trophies. I think that's what's going to happen. That's not what I want to happen, but I think that is what's going to happen.
If he does go, Sam, before we come to sort of Cheltenham and your predictions, if he does go, where do West Ham go in regards of a new manager, though? Like, who would you say is like right for West Ham right now?
It's going to sound boring, but you know, you've got to go with the devil you know, and someone that's worked under Moyes for the last few years, I would probably give it to Kevin Nolan because he's an ex-club captain. He knows the fans. And I just think there's too much of a gamble taking it on a foreign manager just because you've heard of him on FIFA or you've seen they've had a couple of good results in Italy or whatever. I do think it's better the devil you know, and especially with a club like West Ham, you know, it can go very, very sour. We had Zola, it was sour. We had Avram Grant, it was sour. Kirbishley weren't great, but it never really turned sour because he had West Ham in his blood. And I think if we can keep with Nolan, he's worked under Moyes. He knows the players. I don't think there'd be such a quick exodus of players if we kept it with Nolan.
If it was Heitinga and Nolan, because Heitinga has worked at Ajax, and Nolan was his sort of second in command, would that be acceptable for you, considering both of them have been at the club currently right now?
I'd rather it was the other way round. I'd rather it was the other way round. But if it had to be that way, and it would, as long as it was Kevin Nolan as the assistant, then yeah. But if it was David Moyes goes, Kevin Nolan goes, then it's a completely we've had 3 years of relative success, I would say, and to change it all, and then it'd be an exodus of players, whole new turnaround, and people will be moaning after 6 months that they're not in the top half, and it's going to take 2 years to gel, and it's all over again. And while you're doing that, the top 6 are getting further away from you. Yeah, it's hard being outside the top 6 or top 4 to keep a challenge every year.
Do you think David Moyes will come out and say that he's leaving at the end of the season, Sam? Or do you think it's going to be at the end of the season, after the final game against Man City, they talk about it?
He won't announce nothing if we're in Europe. If we're out of Europe with 4 or 5 games to go, then he might announce it. This will be my last 2 games at London, or this will be my last. That's what I think will happen. I don't think he'll leave it until after the season, because I do think he'll probably sign a deal with Celtic, and that'll be announced the day after the end of the season. So I do think that if he's going, that's how I can see it panning out. But if we're still in Europe, he's not the kind of man that would announce that.
Yeah.
He's definitely not that kind of man. He's not. He doesn't want that kind of attention. I just know that at the end, for the people that do respect him and the fans that do like him, they'll at least have a game or 2 to say thanks.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Before we move on to Cheltenham, where do you think West Ham's going to finish this year, Sam? And what do you think in Europe for you?
I think we'll get through the next round, and then obviously much is going to depend on who we get. But I think realistically, if we can get to the semi-finals again, that's probably an overachievement. If you look at the Europa League this year compared to the year we got to the semis, if he was to do that again, that's terrific. But yeah, I would say probably quarter-final of the Europa. I think we should get past Freiburg, and then a lot depends on obviously who we get next. I mean, away, if you're playing away to Roma or AC Milan, that's a different kettle of fish altogether.
Yeah.
But, what about the league? Semi-final, if the draw is generous, I do think we'll beat Freiburg 2-0, 2 or 3-0 on Thursday. I think we'll go at them early. We'll get 1 or 2, and then we'll sit back and just hope to glide out the next 70 minutes.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, mate. I hope so. I really do. Right, I'm going to do this in day order. Sam sent over his selections earlier on, people. So, these are 4 selections that he's got: Tuesday, Wednesday, and 2 on the Thursday. We'll start off with the Tuesday one. Sam, take it away, mate.
Right, so this is for anyone that reads my column. I'll put this up in December. This horse wasn't certain it was going to run in this race. I always had the feeling it was good enough to run in a Grade 1, and connections have obviously listened to me. No, I'm joking. They've not listened to me. Obviously, the race has cut up with the favourite Marine Nationale being pulled out 2 weeks ago. He's got solid form already. I mean, he's a course and distance winner. No one else in the field has got that to their name. They may have won at Cheltenham, but they've not won a 2-mile chase round Cheltenham. He won at the October meeting. He then ran on tacky ground over Christmas period when he was just beaten by Founder 50. He stayed behind. He was off the pace that day and then tried making all come towards the end of the race. That tactic would suit him at Cheltenham with a faster run race this time round. And the form of that race was actually boosted next time by Founder 50, was then beaten a short nose in the Dublin Racing Festival by the race favourite of the, I can't remember, I think Illatom's, some French thing, Illatom's Patot or something. That beat him by a neck or a nose, whatever. So if you actually put that form into perspective, my mate Mozzie would have been within a length of that, but now he didn't run in that race. He's now had the bigger break and he's going to have the better ground that he's going to appreciate. I think is a very good bet, and he's probably my only decent bet on day one of Cheltenham this year.
What price do you reckon he'd be, Sam?
I think he'll probably be about 7-1 on the day. I tipped him up when he was 25s. Yeah. So anyone that was on that price will be happy. But I mean, when I tipped him up, the Arkle's normally, I've noticed with the Arkle, it's normally a small field each year. So I was more hoping to get a run and then also get the each way value. So on at 5-1 for a place, which could only be 6 runners in the race, and your first 3, then you're already on the value. But even now, if I was to have a bet on day one of the festival, it'll definitely be on my mate Mozzie. I think the drying conditions are going to suit him. As I say, he's already won round course and distance. The only thing against him is he's not won a Grade 1 yet, which a few of his rivals have. But I think this is his Grade 1 here.
Fair enough, Sam. Fair enough, mate. Move on to Wednesday, 5:30.
Now, this one is of interest. It caught my eye first time out. It got beat. I don't know if it was at Leopardstown or Navan. It's a Willie Mullins bumper runner. And if you remember last year, that's one of the selections later, so we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But Cantico, anyway, it was beaten, looked green all over the place first time out, beaten into 3rd place. Next time out, absolutely routed the field, and it caught my eye. But when I started diving into the form, it was actually his point-to-point form that stands out. He actually beat a horse called Personal Ambition into 3rd. Now, this season, Personal Ambition's been sent straight over hurdles of the Ben Paulins yard, and they rate it very highly. And he won a Grade 2 at Kelso last week. Now, it was probably good enough to run at Cheltenham in a novice hurdle this week. But this horse easily beat it in a point-to-point. And I somehow feel Connections could have easily gone hurdling with it this year, as the Personal Ambition did. They could have easily gone hurdling. But they obviously kept it back for a reason. And I think it's probably the best bumper horse in the Mullins yard this season. And I think it's about 12-1, or varies between 12 and 16s. And I think from what I've seen and the form of his point-to-point, it should be thereabouts.
Fair enough, mate. We move on to Thursday.
Now, this one's an old dog of mine. I've been following it for a few years, but It joined the Henderson stable a couple of seasons back, and it went novice chasing. Only had 2 starts, and you kind of thought, well, maybe last summer they would have thought about sending it chasing again, because it would have still kept hold of its novice for a few months. And they've dug out and they keep going for hurdles, and it's been placed in like 4 out of the last 7, always around the same mark. And I think this has been the plan all along, is this Pertemps race. It's running a couple of the qualifiers, as I say, it's been placed in them, and they've not overexerted him to a mark that could have, because I actually think he's rated high 140s, probably a 150, and I think he's running currently off a mark of 143. And I do think he's got a couple of pounds improvement in him, and I think connections have held him back for this race in particular. So we'll see. He's from the Nicky Henderson stable. I've got a feeling Nico de Boinville could be riding it as well, unless JP McManus has got one of the stables further up. I didn't check. But I think, you'll get a solid run. I mean, if anyone that watched us last year, I put it up last year and it was placed, I think, at about 40-1 last year. And I think it's about the same price this year. I think it ran in the Coral Cup or the Martin Pipe last year. And I think this race will be more suited to it, 3 miles. It should be there, should be on the premises, I'm hoping.
At each way value, it's definitely worth the punt.
I know that. I think it's around 33s, 40s now.
Yeah, it's definitely worth the punt at each way. And the final one, your nap.
This thing, I mean, it immediately caught my eye. It's weird. Everyone has their superstitions or their races to follow, but I particularly follow this race at Fairyhouse in April called, I'm not going to pronounce the name, I'll sound like an idiot. It's the George Murnaher Bumper. It's like 150,000 euros to the winner. And in recent years, the form of this race has been particularly good. Moon Racer from the Pipe Yard won the Supreme. What was a winner of this? There was another horse, Costello Sforza. Didn't quite hit the heights I thought it was going to, but it was another decent winner of this race. 2 years ago, Dark Raven won the race. And last year, he was 2nd or 3rd at Cheltenham. Same again at Aintree. I think it won before it passed away. But that looked like it was going to be a top horse. So I've always followed the winners of this race. And in particular, this one from the Gordon Elliott Yards come out of that race. And it's won 3 hurdle races this season. But it's won it with ease and it looks real class. And it reminds me of their old horse, Apple's Jade. And I think this horse could be top notch. It's a short price now. But when you look at all the short prices of the week, this would be the one. If you was to say to me, right, you got £1,000 or you got £100, who you want to put it on? This would definitely be my horse of the week. Even at the price, anything over evens, I still think this. I mean, from what I've heard, obviously I work at the paper, whatever, and you hear certain things, but there's big vibes from what I've heard from the Elliott stable of this horse. From all the Cheltenham previews we've seen and read about, real big. They really rate this horse. As I say, it's won its first 3 hurdle races with ease. It was an easy winner of that bumper last year. So, it looks like it's a very good horse. And the fact they've gone for the mare's novice, they obviously want to get a win at Cheltenham on it. I mean, this could be, if this does what I think it'll do this year, you could be looking at possibly a champion hurdle contender next year.
Well, that's some going.
That's how much, from the vibe I'm getting and what I've seen, it could be that good. Knowing my luck, it won't. But I don't, if I stick my neck out, this is the one that all of my trebles, all of my lucky 15s next week will have this horse in.
Fair enough, Sam. Fair enough. Before we go, Sam, any jockeys to watch out for at Cheltenham? Any young up and coming jockeys that you think?
It's hard to say any young up and coming jockeys because it's hard to win at Cheltenham full stop, isn't it? And if you're going to go for any, it would probably be the Gordon Elliott lad, Kennedy.
Yeah,
is consistent. He's obviously got rides at a good yard. He probably won't be favourite. You're going to have Townend up there, Nico de Boinville. He could be 3rd or 4th favourite in the betting. I've not looked at the betting, but if I was to have a bet on the top jockey for the week, it would be Jack Kennedy. It feels like he's been around for years, but I think he's only still early 20s.
No, I remember him from years ago. You know what I mean? So
he's a very good jockey. He's one of my top jockeys. He's in my top 3. He's a great jockey.
Yeah, he is. I must admit, he's a sort of jockey that is consistent. He always gives it. He never has a bad race for me.
And he's a soldier, isn't he? He's one of them soldiers from the Elliott Yard. You had it with Cooper. You had it with Davy Russell. These boys will run through brick walls. made a steal, these jockeys, especially from the Elliott Yard. As I say, they're running in nationals one week, in free hurdles the next day. He's great. I like him. He's a good jockey.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sam. That has been Sam's 4 selections for Cheltenham. Go over and follow Sam on Twitter. Does a great work.
I'll just say, obviously, I've got all of my selections inside the Ultimate Guide this year. So all 28 races I have covered. If you want to read any more selections of what I've got, but I've covered them. And obviously my weekly column in the Racing Football Outlook, if you want to give that a read, every week I'm putting up horses. So yeah, it's not just the occasional Twitter one. I have got a column.
Go over and follow Sam on all columns and all Twitter outlets. Do you know what I'm saying? That's been Sam Hardy, the Cockney tipster. I really do appreciate you coming on, Sam. I will say that.
No worries. Be good.
Give me your Friday night. And hopefully you get some winners at the Cheltenham Festival like me. Thank you very much for everyone who's been watching. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to E20 Zone TV, do all of that. That's been Sam, that's been me. And hopefully we will see some winners come next week. Take care of yourselves, enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you Sunday.